Everyone thought he was a weak orphan in a new world with E-rank skills, but he takes revenge on everyone by destroying them. Mimo was a troubled kid who got abused in his own house by his mother's new boyfriend after his father's death. The poor kid got beaten up every day while getting barely anything to eat as he cowered in the corner covering himself, while his horrible mother watched the television, ignoring her shouts of pain. He ended up growing up to be a lonely kid who was weak and didn't have any confidence. He wakes up from a nightmare of getting beaten up by his stepfather when he hears the bully of his class named Sho messing with a nice girl named Aya. He takes away her book and waves it around the air, making fun of her for reading girly novels, because this negative imbecile can't understand that a girl will read girly novels. Sho laughs, calling him a simp and weak, when suddenly Kiri, the most popular guy in class, tells Sho to give the book back. Sho obeys and returns the book to the girl, then moves on to bully another nerd, Yasu. Mimo questions why he stood up for Aya, an unusual act for him, but before he can dwell on it, everyone on the bus is transported to a different world. They are all utterly bewildered as they stand in a completely unknown place while a hot god stands atop a bridge and introduces herself as the goddess Visai. She explains that every time when the threat of a demon king appears, the kingdom of Alien summons brave warriors from a different world to defend their kingdom. Kiri asks whether there really is a way to go back, and Visai replies that there is a reverse summoning ritual which can send them back. But to get that, they will have to kill the Demon King, as they will require a special part called the Evil Element, which will only drop if he dies. Sho screams at her for calling them to a new world without giving them a choice and refuses to help, but Visai goes down on one knee and begs them to help save her kingdom from destruction. Aya speaks up and tells the goddess that they are just humans who can't really do anything, but Visai promises that they have abilities that they had no idea about. Sho still thinks that all of this is a joke, so Visai decides to prove it, and calls forth a prisoner of war and a giant demon dog. She lets the giant demon dog loose, and it immediately lunges at the prisoner before killing him. Some of the girls are horrified at this and fall to their knees, while Visai looks at the demon before chanting a spell and completely blasting the monster into flames, removing it from existence. She calls the students forward and tells them that they are going to measure their latent abilities. One by one, all the students walk up to a crystal ball and check their abilities as it glows in different colors. After the nerds were through, Sho walks up to the crystal, and as soon as he puts his hand over the crystal, it starts glowing a bright red color. The goddess looks happy and claims that he has a rank skills. Finally, Kiri goes ahead, but as soon as he puts his hand over the ball, it starts glowing a bright golden before exploding. After that, Aya heads up, and even she turns out to be S-rank, and after some more students, another girl walks up who turns out to be S-rank. The guards are completely shocked, as Visai explains that even one S-rank individual is considered extremely lucky, but to have 3 S-ranked people is unreal. Finally, Mimi walks up to the Krista, but when he puts his hand over the ball, it starts glowing a dim purple color. The goddess doesn't even give him a second thought and tells the next person to come up. Mimo tries to ask what rank he is, but she completely ignores him, so he walks away, realizing that even in this world, he is going to stay a background character. After that, Yasu the nerd walks over to the crystal, who turns out to have a special dark ability inside of him which another dark hero possessed a while ago and became the strongest. Finally, everyone checks their stats as the goddess tells them that they also have a personal ability which varies from person to person, before telling them that they have to perform a critical ritual now. She calls Mimo in the front, and he is immediately pushed by a guard. She sends him below in a dark pit and claims that Mimo is E-ranked, which is the lowest in the entire class. Historically, the E-ranked people have caused a lot of trouble, so they are usually killed. But since this time they got so many amazing heroes, she will give the E-ranker a chance to save his life, and he will be sent to the Abandoned Ruins, which is a dungeon far away where criminals and monsters are sent. She tells him that if he manages to survive, they will leave him alone and he will get the right to live, otherwise he can kiss his life goodbye. Mimo tries to argue, claiming that he can get better, but the goddess replies that he falls into the category of failure frame, which means that his stats are so low that even after training his ass off, he cannot get better. He gets pissed off and tells the goddess that he never chose to come here. He was summoned against his will and now is being disposed. But Kiri cuts him off and tells him that he is wasting everyone's time as the girls are already tired. While everyone agreed to him, Mimo falls to the ground, defeated. when Yasu walks up to him. Mimo remembers the time when he helped Yasu after he got bullied, but Yasu rejects him and tells him that an E-ranker should talk with more respect to their superiors. Mimo loses all hope as the goddess commences the ritual and throws a leather bag as his special item, which is completely useless. Aya tries to defend Mimo by saying that this is wrong. Frustrated beyond belief, he raises his arm and uses the paralyze spell at the goddess, who easily manages to block it, before calling Mimo a loser for even trying to hit her with his E-ranked skills. Kiri also tries his spell, which creates a huge fireball, as he claims that he was just checking by letting a small amount of mana in the spell. Everyone laughs at the power difference between a loser like Mimo and themselves, while Mimo simply puts his head down as tears fall down his cheeks. He remembers how his younger self used to cry, when suddenly his soul tells him to stop acting like a good person and show them the true nature of your heart, the nature that you have been trying to repress for so long. Mimo finally lets it all go as he looks up with hate-filled eyes and tells the goddess that she is a rotten hoe, and warns him to be ready for him if he ever comes back alive. He immediately gets transported into a dark cave where he tries to open his status but fails because of the low-leveling blow on Mimo. But this time, instead of running away, all the hatred for everyone who treated him badly comes back to him, and even after being completely depleted, he raises his arms towards the demon, determined that from now on he will kill to live his life, and challenges the demon to fight him, not knowing whether he will survive this time or not. His body quickly goes into a flight or fight mode, where he starts thinking about any way to escape this situation, while he gets completely surrounded by multiple monsters waiting to devour him. He wonders what will happen if he tries to use skills even though he doesn't have any mana as in the games he played. When a person did that, they ended up dying. He decides that he doesn't have any options as if he doesn't try, he is definitely getting killed. So he turns towards one of the monsters and uses his paralyze spell on it. The spell doesn't work, and the monster starts attacking him relentlessly, while he tries to dodge and back off. He realizes that using the same spell twice on a monster won't be very useful, when suddenly he notices that he has unlocked a new spell called Sleep. Just when the monster was about to flatten him into dirt, Mimo ends up using the Sleep spell on it, and to his surprise, the monster stops in its tracks and falls over to the ground, motionless. He immediately uses his poison spell on the beast as well, so that it doesn't come back to attack him later, but using these skills without having any mana is taking a toll on his health. Before he could even make a plan, he notices that a huge horde of monsters is running towards him at full speed, while he wonders whether he has enough health to deal with all these monsters or not. He uses his magical bag as a flashbang, which blinds the monsters, after which he starts using his paralyze spell on all of them, stopping them immediately. He stands there wondering whether he should use poison spell on all of them as well, but realizes he doesn't have enough health for that. Suddenly, to his horror, a bunch of other monsters emerge from the depths of the dungeons, completely overwhelming his senses. But he decides that he won't die without a fight, and starts using his paralyze ability on any monster that would come near him. Soon his body starts feeling heavy as he checks his status and is stunned to see that he is already level 250, and his mana point is insanely high as well. Another monster dies and he again gains multiple levels at once. He then uses his sleep spell on all of them to level up the spell as well, and again when the monster died he got a bunch of levels, to the point where he became level 500 within a matter of minutes. He decides that with these many levels, he can definitely make it out of here alive, but decides to keep his guard up as there are a lot of monsters alive still. He stands up and looks at the remaining monsters, when suddenly they turn around and start running away from him. He scavenges whatever pieces of equipment he can acquire from the dead body of adventurers lying around and manages to find himself a cloak and some other small items. He starts walking deeper into the cave with even more monsters, but realizes that he hasn't eaten in a while and is extremely hungry. He has no idea where he can find food, but then he remembers the monsters that he has already killed. He returns back to the scene of massacre and finds a monster on which the poison spell has worn off. He then takes out his sword and tries to hack a piece of meat from it, only to realize that the skin is too hard. Discouraged, he wonders whether even after killing every monster, he will end up dying of hunger. Suddenly, he notices the gem on the bag glowing a weird purple, so he gets up to inspect it. To his surprise, he opens it to find some jerky and a bottle of Coke inside. This brings tears to his eyes as he hungrily drinks the liquid, almost choking on it. He starts munching on the jerky in peace, wondering how this bag works, and whether he will get more food from it or not. 2 days pass by since he arrived at the dungeon, and soon enough he became strong enough that he could defeat huge hordes of deadly monsters easily, while simply sitting down on a rock and spamming spells on them, thanks to his near-infinite mana pool. He looks around himself at the scene of massacre, and wonders sadly what he did so wrong in life that he is being treated this way. He remembers how, when he was young, he used to dream of killing his mother's boyfriend, knowing that if he didn't kill the man, one day the man would definitely kill him. Thankfully for him, his life took a turn when his aunt and uncle saved him from his miserable life and started taking care of him. It was then he decided to become a good human being who was always kind to others. But he snaps back to reality, looking around the mayhem he has caused while he feels no sadness at their death. He realizes that he was always a monster and decides to accept it, as he gets leveled up again to level 950. After that, he wanders even deeper into the dungeon where he finds a floating eye monster which he kills immediately with his paralyzed poison combo and moves ahead. He finds a room where 2 adventurers seem to have died, so he checks their belongings and finds a bag full of gems which he takes and moves on. He finds a giant room which he opens it to find another skeleton inside. He finds the wound from which the man died and finds a parchment of paper with some words on it. He reads it to find out that the skeleton belongs to the Dark Hero Visi was talking about. The Dark Hero writes that he was sent here by the evil goddess Visi when she had no use for him, and tells anyone who finds this letter to never trust the goddess. He angrily folds the parchment in his hands, realizing that Demon King is not the only evil person in this world, as he himself and the goddess both are equally evil. Inside the hero's bag, he finds a giant magical book filled with dark magic techniques on making items and spells. He checks the scroll beside it, but is unable to read it, so he puts it in his bag before taking the dead hero's clothes. He suddenly notices a splatter of blood on one of the pages, which said that the Soul Eater killed everyone. Mimo thanks the dead hero and walks outside through the galleries till he finds a giant door. He realizes that he needs to fit something for the door to open, so he checks his stats only to see that he is level 1200 now. He wonders whether he is strong enough to kill the Soul Eater, which is present in the next hallway. He tries to enter it, but immediately gets attacked by a beam which graces his hand, forcing him to bandage it. He wonders how can he defeat such an entity which even defeated the Dark Hero, which means that this Soul Eater is definitely the final boss and the key to escape this place. Suddenly, the Soul Eater starts moving forward and pukes out a bunch of goop, which turns into half-dead humans that start walking towards Mimo. He paralyzes them, but is unable to use poison as they still look human, while the Soul Eater breaks through the wall and starts screaming. Mimo is left in mental agony as he tries to move back, but the monster pukes some more half-dead humans that push Mimo in a corner as he starts crying for someone to save him. This all seems to amuse the Soul Eater, who starts laughing at Mimo's agony, but THS is what he was waiting for. As soon as the monster dropped its guard, Mimo used Paralyze spell on it, and the Soul Eater drops to the floor, with a look of surprise. Mimo laughs at the monster, claiming that he finessed the demon with his acting skills, as that was the only way for him to drop his defenses. He tells the monster that all his life he pretended to be a good human who was kind to others and would never hurt anyone. But now his true self is coming out. He doesn't care how many half-dead humans he pukes out, as it wouldn't matter to him. He is in a kill or be killed world, so any moving thing with the intention to hurt him, regardless of whether it's a monster, a half-dead human, or an actual live human, he will kill them all the same without any regrets. The Soul Eater starts bleeding from its eye while Mimo simply walks up and uses sleep spell on everyone around him, to finish them once and for all. After a while, the Soul Eater ends up dying, and suddenly, a bunch of souls escape from its body and become ethereal forms of humans who thank him for beating this monster, as they were trapped inside this demon with no way of escaping while it killed even more humans. Finally, the Dark Hero emerged, and he simply told him to deal with the evil goddess before disappearing. Mimo grabs the gem from the Soul Eater and walks towards the main gate. As he puts the gem in the door and it opens, he wonders what he will do with the bitch goddess once he gets her hands on her. Meanwhile, in the forests outside the royal capital, the rest of Mimo's classmates are hunting demons to level up. While Sho runs after a demon dog with a sword, Kiri burns down another monster with his powerful skill, successfully reaching level 18. In another location, the nerd Yasu, whose personality has flipped 180 degrees, burns some monsters with his dark flames and laughs on hearing its cries. Far away from them, a timid and pure girl named Koba hesitates to kill any monsters, but a bully girl called Asagi asks her to kill the monsters, or she will lose her life because this is the first test given to them by the goddess. Asagi keeps Koba on a tight leash and tells her that soon, the class will fall apart, and various factions will form because there are a lot of selfish people there. Asagi is a B rank, and she plans to create her own fraction with the girls that rally after her. She knows that since Koba is only D rank, she will not be accepted by Kiri's faction or the other powerful ones, and even Aya won't be able to take her in because she will die soon. Koba panics on hearing this, but Asagi tells her to not worry about useless details. She just wants Koba to be her cute little plaything, and for her sake, she has asked the girls of her faction to trap a monster which she can easily finish. Asagi asks Koba to kill the monster and pass the test given to them by Vic, or she will be disposed off like Mimo. Koba doesn't want to kill the pitiful monster, but Asagi eggs her on, practically forcing her to do it. Eventually, she kills the monster, but that act of violence leaves her devastated, and she recalls the time Mimo helped an injured stray kitten. She begins crying, thinking that she could not help Mimo. Meanwhile, Aya also returns to her senses, and the pain in her gut reminds her of how the goddess knocked her out before sending Mimo away. She immediately goes to confront Goddess Vic, who puts on a third-rate acting show, saying that she was also deeply hurt to send Mimo to danger, but it is their kingdom's policy. She adds that the ritual to dispose off the weakest member of the group will continue, and in the time Aya was asleep, she has already sent the weaklings who couldn't kill a single demon away as well. Aya truly hates the goddess at this point and tells her that her way of doing things is wrong. Vic just laughs it off, saying that everyone is entitled to have different opinions, but it doesn't mean that she will try to accommodate them. Aya then suggests that as an S-rank hero, she will work really hard and cover for those who cannot perform well enough. In return, she wants Vic to not banish them. Vic accepts her idea and then asks Aya to shake hands with her so that they can bury the past and start their relationship with a fresh perspective. Warns her not to try anything funny or he will kill her. Mimo comes in front of the girl and clearly tells her that because of a lot of reasons, he doesn't trust anyone, much less strangers he is meeting for the first time. Before he can start questioning her, the girl asks him what happened to the 4 bandits. Mimo tells her that he killed all of them, and the girl can't believe it, because the bunch of thugs was apparently known for being really strong. She asks Mimo if he fought the 4 of them alone or if he received help, but he refuses to give her any details. The girl believes that Mimo is not a bad guy, so she decides to trust him and says that she will answer any question he asks honestly. Mimo also starts trusting her a bit more because of her cooperative attitude, but it is not enough to free her. They begin talking, and Mimo learns that right now, he is not in the Alien Kingdom, but in the forest of the Urza Kingdom to the south. He learns a lot of things, and then finally asks the girl if she can read the forbidden spell scroll. She can only tell him that it is written in a rather special type of ancient script which almost no one can read. However, she knows someone who can. She tells Mimo about a person called the Forbidden Witch, who was banished from her homeland because she was deemed too dangerous because of her excessive knowledge.